It's podcast time, people. Hey, everybody. Yeah, it's podcast time on Holleroo weekend, so it's going to be a little bit weird. We had an election. We had a bunch of cool, crazy stuff going on, so I felt the need to check in for a short show tonight just to update you on the what's-its and the who's-its and the whatnots that have occurred this week, and go from there. Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. If you're listening to this immediately upon release, stop what you're doing. Come down to the Holler. It's Holleroo time. Full panic mode for me. Soapbox Derby, Street Fair, Music Festival, all the fun stuff. Come join us for that if you can. If you missed it, too bad. Well, anyway, we're almost agreement. Like, share, follow, text your friends. Do support the show, and we're going to do what we're going to do. So here we go. Everybody. Oh, wait. I'm running solo tonight. Just kidding. So, Sam wasn't able to make it, and that's all good. We could just do a show. We could touch base on a couple things real quick, and I could talk to myself. Why not? Everybody else does it, so I might as well, too. First, I got to brag a little bit, because on the mayor's race, on the Compass Points podcast, Compass Points is a service of CompassKnox.com. Also free, but it's a free podcast. If you guys haven't checked it out, you should. And last week on their show, at the end of the show, we did secret ballots of the mayor's race, who we thought was going to win, and the percentages. I was the only one of the three, and those two guys are like pro people, like they know what they're talking about, and they've been in around paying attention to Knoxville, Knox County politics for decades. And I was the only one that picked Betsy. Not pick Betsy because I wanted Betsy, but pick Betsy because I thought that they were going to win, and I was exactly right in about how it went down. Betsy pulled a few more percentage points than I expected. I figured it would be a little bit tighter between the three. Betsy pulled about 40-something, Larson in the 30s, and Kim down in the low 20s. So it ended up being a 20-something point spread top to bottom, where I was thinking it was going to be a little closer at 10. I'm a little surprised. I mean, obviously, that Kim didn't pull out a little bit more. I think Kim had some very good... I think she had some good talking points. And like I've said 1,000 times, that primary was about two issues. It was about taxes, and it was about growth, how you want to approach those, on the campaign cycle, never getting into the nitty-gritty of any of those, because they don't have to, and why would they? And so I intend to get Bo and Betsy in a pseudo-live podcast, I think is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it in the back in the Crow's Nest at the Pirate Tavern, the bar I own down at Happy Holler, and it'll just be me and those two talking, and I'll have some questions prepped, and it will be in front of a live audience, but it will not be a audience participation type event. So if nobody shows, it's fine. It's still more about the podcast than whatever. So, like I said, it's the mayor's race was two items. It was growth, and it was taxes. And when the early voting is 80-something%, 60-plus-year-olds, they don't want growth. They don't want more density in their neighborhoods. They don't want more traffic. And they don't want to pay more taxes. And so, the people that vote win, and that's how that goes down. So, again, final total, 44.73 for Betsy, 31.15 for Larson, and 24.12 for Kim. And so we also did the live on air, and I think Sam wrote down my notes wrong, but that's okay. He's not that's not his job. So running down the ballot as I picked it, Emily F. Abbott winning criminal court judge District 6 by herself. Of course, that's a win. I picked Betsy to win the mayor's race. District 3 was a surprise. I picked Gina Oster, and Sherry Super pulled that one out. Very close. If my counting is correct, 11 votes between the two. And so that will be an interesting general election. I think District 3 is the most likely to, quote, flip into a potential blue district, although I'm not sure Huckabee is the candidate to do that for the Democrats, but we'll see. I would certainly say Huckabee has a better shot against Sherry than he would have against Gina, if that makes sense. District 7, Barry Beeler was my pick to win. and he won handily at 53%. District 10, I picked Kofer, and he pulled that out late. He was behind there. I was worried about my picks. Picked Garrett to win that one. Garrett was probably the biggest competitive victory. Now, Sam checked that I said Justin Biggs is going to win, and I'm pretty sure I didn't. Almost in agreement at gmail.com. Tell me if I'm remembering incorrectly. Nick Brookpod won that one in a pretty solid fashion. Although I will say Biggs did a little better than I expected. 34% was a lot. Andrea Klein keeps that judge seat. That was correct. I said Amburn. I personally voted for Gibson, and he won. But I said Amburn, and he ended up coming in second. So that's 2 races that I've mispicked so far. Pretty good. Susano running solo. That one I picked right. We're not really counting that one. Richie Beeler won the county clerk's race. That was my pick. Sherry Witt by herself. Charles Fraser by himself. Ashley Sartell by themselves. And then Lee Ann Eves in District 6 for the school board race. And she won, which is not awesome for school board stuff, but it is awesome for me because I picked her right. Steve Trevor by themselves. And then my other miss was Christy. Christy lost to Bill Solfield. And that's the all the primaries that happened. And then the one Democratic primary that was actually competitive was the District 9, I think it was, school board race. Let me find it. And that was Breonna Holloway with John Butler, incumbent, and Travis Harris, O.T. Harris. And Breonna pulled that one out, which was a little surprising, just given that John was a pretty solid candidate and doesn't really have a lot of complaints about him, although their big major project they're doing in Lonsdale or whatever, with all the schools shifting around, there's apparently some people that are bitter about him voting for that thing that's going to get a new school, but also shut down some of the neighborhood schools. And so it kind of makes sense, but that's your breakdown on it. And I think to me, the overarching takeaway here is that incumbents are losing, which is weird. And we're shifting even further to the right. That's the most basic overarching take, I guess you could take from this. And so I guess the better way to do it is, or a different way to say it would be that the of the Republican primary voters, to put a little bit of a qualifier on it, their stance is they are not happy with how things are, and they want it to be more conservative as a result. Interesting takes given how generally conservative Knox County has been. And if you're not happy with how things are, I don't know how more conservative gets you there. I'd be curious, it's one of those, what do the people want? And I think the other big takeaway for me is, at least in my social media and general legacy media intake, the Larson campaign went the more traditional route. Spent a lot of money, raised a lot of money, and spent a lot of that money on TV ads. And Larson did an op-ed in the News Sentinel and stuff like that, more of the traditional media outlets where they were not doing as much push on the socials. And Betsy was everywhere. Like, Betsy was everywhere on the social stuff, and she made it about, like, she did the Trump move, and she's a Trump fan, so I don't feel bad saying it, but she did the Trump move, making her, she set the tone, not the tone, that's not the word I want to use. She set the dialogue. This is what we're talking about, and this is how I'm talking about it. And it forced everybody to be in that kind of reaction thing, and I don't think, I think one of those things that people don't necessarily like, and certainly don't like to do as normies, is be that confrontational thing that needed to be, it needed, like, I think Larson lost because I don't know, I guess probably what he would describe, what I would say, he would probably say something about where the professionalism and decorum, he couldn't bring himself to do certain things that the new world of politics demands of you. He needed to attack Betsy Betsy had her stance on taxes, and he needed to his response to that should have been something more of like, here's why she's wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, instead of, well, this is how I want to do it, or this is what I want to do. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's kind of, or maybe the different way to look at it is he needed to put it in his terms and make Betsy reply to him. And again, in my view of it, and from the from me ingesting all the different things that I was doing and going on in my social media work and all that kind of stuff, all I saw was Betsy setting the tone. She set the tone. She said it. Everybody else either ignored it or was responding, was reacting to it, and neither of those seemed to land well, at least with the Republican base. Now, on the crossover issue with Courtney, I don't know where she's at with her legal situation, but on the functional election front, it doesn't seem like there was enough to be worth actually talking about. Certainly not throwing somebody in jail or finding them or whatever it is that they're threatening to do to her. There's just not. It just does. It doesn't make any sense. It's one of those. I think the crossover voters shot themselves in the foot in the process too. I'm not doubting many people did do it, but I think there's like two camps of people who crossover voted. There are people that were crossover voting to try to find a better candidate for their Democrat to beat later on. And then there was the people that were crossing over being like, I know the Republican's going to win this race, sheriff, because there was no Democrat. I want to vote for the one that's least bad for what I think we need to be working on. I would guess that's more than that's the majority of the ones that crossed over. Because again, going back to the mayor's race, if you're crossing over to vote in that mayor's race because you're a big Bohawk / Democrat and you want Bohawk to have the candidate you think you could beat more, Betsy is the one. That is the correct answer. Because your hope is that the MAGA leanings that Betsy is, saying she is, comes across as a net negative. And realistically, I think it does. And I think it's curious. I think the Democrats have an opening here if they can capitalize on it, because there are 16,000 people that voted in this primary that didn't vote for Betsy. And I don't know, I didn't look at that, how many votes Bo got in his primary, because it didn't matter. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick while I'm talking. But either way, 16,000 people. Bo pulled, right at 10,000. Okay, so you got Bo at 9,950 with, Betsy pulling 20,000. So there's 23,000. Kim pulled 10, almost 11,000. Larson's almost 14, so that's 15,000. No, 25,000. And if that 25,000 splits evenly, Bo loses by 10,000. So if Bo can pull 17 of the 25, that'd get him in the upper 20,000. Again, obviously more people are going to vote in the general than voted in the, but the idea being, can he pull a significant chunk of people that voted for Larson? Because if he could take all of Larson's votes and on an even playing field, he wins. If he can take 90% of Larson's votes, because I do think there are a lot of people whom are traditionally Republicans and vote in Republican primaries regularly that don't want that MAGA branding in Knox County. And I think there's also a good sum of people who do understand that a tax increase is a necessary evil that they're willing to discuss, that it's not a just straight no. They prefer no, but it's not a straight no. And so if you're kind of in that camp, the hard no, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that the Bo camp has the opportunity to really draw the distinction of, okay, here's what no taxes. This is what no taxes is going to look like. This is what it's going to look like, And I think the other one that's in play, the other one that's in play is the growth thing, in which Betsy is fairly vocally anti-growth might be an overstatement, but smart growth, skeptical of growth kind of thing, which is in its own right weird. Just as a Republican, like, how are you going to be anti-growth? Because that means you're telling people what to do with their own property, which I thought that was like conservative values. Like, it's yours, you get to do what you want with it. But anyway, I don't understand the difference. In Republican, what a Republican means anyway. So, whatever. But point being is there's lots of votes available for the Democrats if they can figure out how to pick them up. Because end of the day, on the two issues that matter in this mayor's race, and they will continue to be, I think they'll be the two main issues. I'm certain Betsy and her camp will be pushing hard into the Boza socialist, Boza communist kind of rhetoric or whatever. And so the Bo camp needs to, in my opinion, needs to ignore that. And really hammer home the growth, the how to do growth right, and make it that Betsy's going to tell you what you can do with your, in your own backyard. Can you put your own pool in? Is that something that's a problem? Or, really lean into the whole, do you want the county to tell you how you're allowed to live on your yard? I think that's a big opening, that if they hammer that home correctly, they can get after it. And I think you go and you do the math and you say, listen, don't give me these miles of road per year, whatever, and be like, your roads in your neighborhoods will not get paved. There's no mathematical way that the county can afford to pay that. Our schools are falling apart. The county's not going to be chipping in the money that they used to. The state's about to start cutting off the spigot too, and it's going to get real weird. We've got, I think another strategy the Democrats could employ is, like, there are 60 teachers, I think, that they're not rehiring or laying off over the summer this year. 57, I think, was the exact number. We have 57 less teachers in Knox County School. That's Betsy Henderson's fault. I think that's an opening for them to attack. I'm not the strategist. I have another little funny strategy that I'm working on as well. But, again, this isn't me trying to be partisan on it. It's just trying to be realistic about the way things stand. So I'm hopeful that the Dems will put up a good race. I'm curious if they will put up a good fight. Because the problem is, I think Bo's not a particularly strong candidate. He needs to do his studying. He needs to get into the deep dive depths of his of running these numbers and being able to react in real time about when Betsy says something ridiculous about, because again, I noticed it watching the socials, because she was very active on the socials, that her campaign went from no tax, no tax, no tax, no tax, no tax, no tax, so I'll fix the roads. Right there at the end. So obviously they were getting some information and some input that the roads issue is something that needs to be dealt with. And all you got to say is how. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Make her answer that question. And if she can answer that question, you're SOL. But realistically, I don't think there is a way for them to answer that question competitively. Anyway, that's where we're at in that. And so, and then, like I said, the other part too is that we had John Butler lost, Christie lost, Gina Oster lost, almost every incumbent, maybe all the incumbents. Let me double check this before I say it. John Butler is the one Democrat. He lost his primary. Christie lost her primary. I guess Andrea Klein is theoretically an incumbent, but that's kind of a weird one. I'm not counting that. Justin Biggs lost. And so Gina Oster lost. So every incumbent on there, except for the judgeship, lost. So there's clearly an appetite for some change. And again, same thing for all the Democrats is you have to sell that you have to feed you have to feed people's appetite and give them a picture of what change could look like. You need to keep it out of trans issues, keep it out of LGBTQ stuff. Just ignore that as best you can. They're gonna bring it up, and you're just gonna. I don't know how to handle that one. Because, we partner all this with, we've now lost our one Democrat in the state for the federal House. They split up Memphis, which I don't know. I continuously harp on. There's no way we're going to get redistricting done that isn't in a partisan fashion. But this is special. I mean, this is crazy. Mathematically, mathematically, election results across the board. However you want to say it, we got 7 million people in the state or whatever, 8 million people in the state. We have 9 federal districts. So that's 11%? What's the math on that? I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's 11 or 11.5% or whatever of the state was represented by a Democrat in the federal House. Previously, now 0% of the state will be represented by a Democrat. 11%, I want to say, if you go statewide into a bunch of different stuff, Gloria Johnson got more than 11% of the vote when she ran against Governor Lee. Not Governor Lee, when she ran against Marsha for Senate. You know what I'm saying? In statewide, Senate races, the governor's race, the Democratic candidate's getting more than 11%. And now 0% are represented. I think realistically, we probably have 30% of the state that's Republican, 30% of the states that are pretty hardcore Democrats, and then we have 40% of the state that's probably a right-leaning independent. If you really hammered them down on what their actual stance was or whatever their positioning is or whatever you want to call it. So if you take those math and you take those numbers, it's I'm not saying that the 9 we have should be a 5-4 split, although that would be probably statistically more accurate. But a 6-3 or a 7-2 would be more reasonable. Yeah, there are Democrats. There is a non-insignificant number of Democrats in this state, and I think we should treat it as such. So anyway, I don't know. I think it's weird. I think it's crazy. I think it's a huge mess nationally, and we're going to be dealing with the repercussions of this for years and years to come. And I don't know how else to deal with it other than this is what we do. And I guess I don't know. I'm not old per se, but I always like to ask the question: am I crazy, or is this how it's always been? It's just louder now because we have more access to it in all sorts of deep and direct ways. Surprise guest John jumps in because he heard me down in the basement talking to myself, and he overheard me saying something about the schools, and he said he had something to say about the schools. John, tell me about the schools.
Yeah. So, do you know Canvas?
Yes.
All right. I thought, I don't know, but it just got hacked apparently today, and so every schooling system has to pay money or else
They ransomwared it?
Yeah, all the data will get leaked, and it's just that's kind of crazy. The probably most important website for schooling has that bad of a defense that just a random group of people could get in, especially during finals.
I mean, I don't know. I guess part of me will push back on the random group of people. There's people, this group of people is doing it for a reason, and people that know what they're doing in this field are usually motivated by something.
Yeah.
It's not completely random. And there are people that are really good at it and can really handle it. And I don't know. I mean, it goes down to it's probably as much a finance thing as anything else. That Canvas company got that contract from the state or Knox County. I don't know if it's a statewide program or just something we use here in Knox County.
It is.
It is statewide?
It's United States wide.
I mean, I'm sure it's available United States wide, but I don't think every school district in every county.
Yeah, not every school district uses it, but it's like TestNav for TCAPs or whatever thing.
Right, TCAPs are state run. So, it might be a state contract that the state hired this company to do these services for us. Either way, with the state's tendency to underpay for things or not pay for things or whatever, it doesn't seem like a stretch to me that the discount. I don't know how much it costs. It's probably a gajillion dollars, but I don't know. It's your brother told me about that in the car ride this morning, and I have lots of thoughts on it. Like, this is, I grew up and went to school and we barely had computers and we were fine. And so there's part of me that's like, well, maybe we don't need to live off of computers. And at the same time, I'm sitting here on my computer with a computer over there and a laptop here and a iPhone there. And I'm just living my life. So I can't really judge it. So I don't know.
I mean, yeah, like, technology is the future. And so learning evolves with that. And so it evolves with the technology based around it.
I mean, again, like I have my problems with the school with the school system, but it's like, if we're going to spend a good bunch of money on something, maybe this is. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I guess part of me has to think, like, what is the motivation for somebody to do this? Like, is it a group of kids that just got that figured out how to get out of their finals?
I don't know. They call themselves the Shiny Hunters.
The
apparently.
Shiny Hunters. Interesting. I hadn't really done any deep
diving in it.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what I've heard. I might be mistaken on that.
I mean, there's two levels here that are also kind of in play, because now I'm seeing the headlines on it too. There's a law enforcement issue here. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, essentially it's a blackmail scam that they're doing.
Yeah.
And there's a law enforcement's ability to do something about it, which is, that's one of the things about the internet that makes things harder for law enforcement to do. But it's also like, I don't know. Like, why are we putting all your, like, okay, they steal a bunch of data on test grades and stuff, and they release that to the public. Who cares?
It's not just that.
Right, because they include all your demographic, like your name is in there with your birthday and probably your social security number, and
along with all the emails, which for students that's not that bad, but for teachers that's comparatively a lot worse.
Yeah, but what could be possibly on those emails that would be a problem if it went public?
A lot of things, as some teachers use more personal emails or more personalize the emails.
I mean, but again, it's like, yes, there are. I don't know. There's nothing that I've had an email conversation with any of your teachers about that I would be like, oh my god, the whole world gets to read those emails.
Yeah, true.
I mean, it's not the Epstein files, bruh. But there is definitely. I mean, you're not wrong though. There is definitely some stuff. Communication between parents and teachers about their student should be private. I'm not saying it should be public information, but
all things considered.
Johnny got was misbehaving in class today and has bad grades. Isn't the end of the world if that goes public. Now, Johnny has a particular medical condition, and we're trying to deal with it in the classroom, and that's a very private conversation that needed to be had between a teacher and a parent. Yeah, I see how that's a bigger.
Just the reason why it's so bad is because it houses all of those conversations that should only be available to the teacher and the parent.
I mean, again, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it shouldn't be kept private. I'm just saying, I don't know. It's not. I don't see the private part to me that's a problem is your personal information.
Yeah.
That may not have needed to have been on there in the first place. So I don't know. It seems like it's back online according to some of these articles, but I'm sure there will be more to come on the on that story as it breaks. So
yeah. Bye.
Yep. Thanks for coming. All right, handy little break from John. Thanks, John. Anyway, yeah, I'm not sure. I feel bad. Like I always, so I don't know, whatever. The other kind of headline that it's not a headline, it's stupid and I hate it, is UT's more details on the UT Entertainment District, some of the weird, whatever. You know, I don't know. You know how I feel about it. Like, I think it's dumb. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think there's anything anybody can do about it. And so I guess it's me screaming into the wind. You know, it's going to be year-round available and all this stuff, and there's going to be all this cool stuff on it. And, you know, apparently the university is going to, quote, help sell the condos. But by help sell the condos, they're going to take donations to get people who want the condos to then get in contact with the realtor, which is crazy to me. But, you know, they'll sell them. No worries, they'll sell them. You know, there's only 50 or 70 of them that are going to be available. So that's that. And then kind of the last big headline of the week on the local front is look out for your reappraisal letters. It's supposed to be pretty gross. They're saying it's going to be an average of 60% reappraisal. And if I understood correctly in talking to Scott and Jesse when they did it earlier today, is multiply your appraised value by 25% to get your assessed value, or maybe the other way. And then 25% of whatever you get in the mail is your taxable at 1.05 cents or $1.05 per $100 in value. And then reduce the rate from 1.05 to like 97, and that's going to be your new taxable whatever. So at the end of the day, the example everybody's been using in the whatever, if your house was $400,000 last time, it's now going to be 600 something thousand. If it was 400,000 last time, you're paying like $1,500 a year in property tax. If it's 600 something, the rate's going to adjust down, and you're going to pay about $1,500 in tax. Nothing changes. Jacobs isn't going to raise taxes before he leaves office. Betsy's swearing to veto, and that she will not raise property tax on the other side of it, you know. And so I don't know, because it doesn't mean my house is going to sell for that much, but you know, and there's weird stuff going on in the housing market. Like, there was some more news last week, 2 weeks ago, about like there's too many apartments available, not enough condos, and people want to own, they don't want to rent. And so a number of apartment complexes, I think it's the one on Summit and Gay Street, they converted to condos from apartments. There's one up in the Holler that was a small 6-unit apartment complex, and they got pulled and turned into condos. There's another set of condos that's going in across the street in the Holler. And they're cool condos. Don't get me wrong. The floor plans look great. The building looks great. The guys that are building the building are super cool, but $600,000 for a condo is crazy. The other one that's in the Holler is like $400,000. They're like 750 square feet, 800 square feet. That's crazy to me. So yeah, that'll be a little bit of a bump in property tax, because new sales go off of value at the time of sale. So anyway, I don't know. Like I don't foresee a world where the demand for people wanting to move to Knoxville is going to decrease. And if the demand is going to stay up and the supply is not going to catch up, and at the way things sit right now, I don't see any way supply is ever going to catch up. We're going to need some major financial crisis, which everybody screws, it doesn't matter, or a complete shift in mindset on how we deal with housing for housing to be affordable in Knox County ever again. There's no logical way. Either we're going to have a couple 100,000 people that own their homes, a couple 100,000 people that, or like 100,000 people that are in condos and or apartments, and then we're going to have the other half of Knox County is going to have some sort of subsidized housing system. It's just not feasible with the market the way it sits. Like, And I guess part of me wants to get out of here anyway, is kind of psyched about the idea, because then it's like, oh, well, my house is worth $1 million, and I can take that $1 million and go out to like Cumberland County and buy a mountaintop and disappear. That's not bad for me, I guess, because I was lucky enough to be in a position in my life at the exact perfect time to buy a house, which sucks. I mean, it just sucks all over. I don't know what else to do about that. So, I'm trying to think if anything else it's Holleroo week, so I've been all over the place, not paying as much attention to the news. The fact that the election happened inside this week has really convoluted my ability and my brain set to try to keep up with any of this stuff. So come on to Holleroo; it'll be fun. The smoking thing. I did sit down with the one and only Lauren Ryder and Debbie Helsley, the vice mayor, I think is her title now. And we talked about it a little bit. And it's really funny because we were all over the place. Debbie Helsley thinks I'm a terrible debater, which is hilarious. And I don't know. Like, it's the same as we talked about last week. It's like, this is coming up on City Council on Tuesday this week, the first reading. It's like, look, I don't care. At the end of the day, like on the practicality of it, great. I don't like going into smoky bars either. But on like the personal liberty and the individual front, like, it's like, what are we talking about here? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like a decade, 20 years ago, when the original ban came in, I didn't like it. I was working in a bar at the time, and I was working in a restaurant bar at the time, and the bar is always the smoking area when we had split restaurants like that back in the day. And, it killed my bottom line to the point where I left that place and went and found a bar that smoked and made a bunch more money. That's that. And the argument that employees didn't have a choice was legitimate back then. Not that every kitchen guy that I've ever worked with and server girl and hostess and all that stuff, not that every one of them didn't smoke anyway. But, for career servers and bartenders and stuff like that that don't want to do that, they have a choice now. You don't have to work it. There's plenty of bars and restaurants in town that don't allow smoking. And if that is an issue for you, go work there. Like, I don't know. I tried to throw an example of it. It's just like, I don't know. I don't like that one. I don't want to go into I don't want to go into a beach bar. Like the whole, no, that's not a good example. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't hate it. I don't know. I wouldn't go into a high-end bar. I don't want to spend that kind of money, and I don't want to be in that kind of environment where it's all snooty, kind of high-end. It's like $30 cocktails, and, you're supposed to have a suit and tie on to go in there. Like maybe the better one is when whatever that private club was that was on top of the First Tennessee building was there. I would never be a member to a place like that. I'm not going to pay money to be allowed in a room where I have to wear a jacket and a tie to have dinner. Or the occasion that I want to do something like that, then I'm going to go to the place that does that. Does that make sense? There, I have choices. It's not like, this is Knoxville, for Christ's sake. We have every restaurant that's ever existed and every knockoff of that restaurant that's ever existed come through this town at some point. You've got options. You've got options as a customer. You've got options as an employee. And the other side of it is you have options as the owner of the bar or restaurant. It's a business choice on whether you want to do it or not. Like, it was a hugely consequential business choice for the guys that I went to work with after I left the O'Charlie's bar. Like, I think they made, if they were better at managing money or whatever, they took a huge step up in revenue when the smoking ban came down, because people were looking for a place that was an option. I don't know how serious it is still anymore, and I don't know, whatever, but that would be a choice to make for them. Like, at this point, I don't think you could get the smoke out of the walls in that building ever. But, still, you make the choice, you go non-smoking, and you deal with the consequences of it. Some of your customers that came there aren't going to come anymore because they want to go a place where they can smoke. Who cares? And it's like, I don't know. It's just like, this is a philosophical issue, and I'm never going to see eye to eye with Lauren on this issue, and that's okay. We don't need to agree on it. It's not the end of the world for either one of us if it goes either way. I just think it's funny to me that it's like, well, I hate going to those places. Then don't go into those places. It's not a hard choice to be like, oh, that place is a smoking place. I can't do it. I just can't stand being in there. I don't like to have to go home and take a shower and wash my clothes twice before I can wear them again because they stink like cigarettes that long. I don't have. It's not a hateful way I don't mean this hatefully when I say it, but I have little to no sympathy for employees because they have a choice. The only people on the long list of people that have to deal with a smoking bar that I actually have some sympathy for is an itty bitty tiny list, like I don't know, a police officer that has to come in because there's an incident. That being said, 15, 20, 45 minutes every once in a while to have to go into a smoky bar. I'm not concerned for the long-term health effects of minimal secondhand smoke consequences for them. Goes the same for like the health inspector that has to go in there regularly, like twice a year or whatever, if it's the same health inspector over and over again, every single time. So it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't care. And then there's my slippery slope argument, which is it's not as slippery as maybe the argument makes it sound. It's like, we went from you could smoke wherever you wanted to, and we're smoking on airplanes, and we had doctors selling cigarettes on TV, to, we just stopped talking about it, but everybody still smoked, to segregated restaurants where there's smoking and non-smoking sections, to restaurants don't let you smoke anymore. You have to go to a bar to smoke. And then now we're going, you can't smoke in the bar anymore. When are they going to be like, well, you can't smoke on a patio that faces a public thoroughfare? And it's like, okay, well, all of Market Square and their front patios can't smoke anymore. All of Gay Street and their front patios can't smoke anymore. And then it's going to be, well, you can't smoke. I mean, we can't smoke in city parks already. So that's already off the table. When they be like, well, you can't smoke on city sidewalks. You can't smoke on city streets. It just feels to me like this is another step into the city of Knoxville is a smoke-free area. And it's like, I get it on the public health part. I do. But at the same time, it's like, of all the things we were going to pick battles on, I don't know if this is one that's worth it to me. So anyway, apparently, again, that's a triggering issue for me. But I think I'll wrap there. That's a pretty good solo show. Got a couple things. Again, it's a very interesting election. I will be working on planning this mayoral head-to-head mayoral debate. I think there's room for some excitement in this general election, although the realist in me is not holding my breath. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Sam should be back next week. We should get back to normal. Holleroo will have been in the rear view, and I won't be dead, so you got to deal with me another week. Bye, everybody. I guess that's the show. Like I said, it's Holleroo Eve for me. I'm going to try to get to sleep. I got to get up super early, get out there and start setting up hay bales and all that stuff. If you're listening to this at release, you got an hour or so. Get your butt down here and join us. It's going to be a fun, crazy day. So, Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, go to the website, Almost Zero Sean. While you're there, check out the website, almostinagreement.com. Almostinagreement at gmail.com is the email. Favorite podcast provider, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Like, share, follow. Text your friends to the show. Do what you can do to support us. We're going to keep doing what we do. And we'll be back next week with another fascinating breakdown and the return of the news of the weird, because I know you guys are missing it so badly. Almost here, everybody. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.